All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. We're talking about the Green Bay Packers in today's video, folks. We are less than a week away. By the time this work week is over, the Green Bay Packers will be playing football against the Philadelphia Eagles. And I saw a beautiful quote from Louis Riddick on Get Up, I believe, on ESPN. He said, outside of Patrick Mahomes, if you were telling me what quarterback would you want if you were starting a new franchise today, it would be Jordan Love. So, obviously the Green Bay Packers, we were 3-6 at one point last season. I remember watching Monday Night Football against the Las Vegas Raiders. I remember getting my heart broken on, what was it? I think it was Monday Night Football again against the New York Giants later on in the season. And against all odds, even like, what was it? Week 3, week 4, week 2, something like that. We played the New Orleans Saints, and Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers scored 17 unanswered points in the fourth quarter and won the football game. So we knew there were flashes, and we knew Jordan Love was probably going to be that dude. But the Green Bay Packers, once again, were 3-6 and essentially run the table, somehow, some way, make the playoffs, obliterate the Dallas Cowgirls in the first game on the road, obliterate. That final score does not correlate to how that game looked in the first 3 quarters. The Packers obliterated Dallas. And then we head to San Francisco, and I hate to be that guy, but if we had a better kicker, the Green Bay Packers probably square up against the Detroit Lions in the NFC Championship game. So we are one of the bigger Super Bowl contenders this upcoming season. But before we get into all that, if you guys enjoy this video, hit that like button, hit that sub button for daily NFL content, along with a ton of Packers videos, because I am a diehard cheesehead. If we could try and get this video to 100 likes, folks, that would mean the absolute world to me. I hope you're as excited as I am. We have to wait like 4 more days until live regular season football, but folks, we've been waiting all freaking summer for this. We really have. So The Athletic, Austin Mock specifically, did an article for The Athletic where he did why each of the top 10 Super Bowl contenders will or won't hoist the Lombardi Trophy in February. And I want to give you my opinion on why they won't win the Super Bowl, because it has to do with the defense. And I want to talk about guys like Cooper, Hopper. I want to talk about Evan Williams specifically. We know on paper the Packers defense is freaking loaded. We know on paper the Packers offense is freaking loaded, but it's really, in my opinion, going to come down to the defensive play. So let's get into it. This is what Austin Mock had to say. Why the Packers will win the Super Bowl. Matt LaFleur, quarterback Jordan Love, and the offense dismantled the Cowboys in the playoffs last year and took the 49ers to the wire in the divisional round. And that was no fluke. Another offseason for Love, and the ceiling for the Packers on that side of the ball is as high as anyone's in the league. If they can come close to reaching that ceiling, they have a great shot to go all the way. 100% factual. So let's get into why they won't win the Super Bowl. Because while the offense was a top 5 unit by EPA per play in the second half of last season, the defense ranked in the bottom 10, and the special teams was the worst unit in football during the same period. Freaking hate to hear that. Changes have been made at defensive coordinator. Jeff Hafley replaced by Joe Barry, and the talent is there. But can it all come together for Green Bay? It's a tough thing to bet on, even if the defense is average, combined with horrible special teams play. That's too much burden for the offense to carry. So, we talked about this in our last Packers video. Anders Carlson was waived by the Packers. He was released, and we're running Greg Joseph for this upcoming season. I think that will hopefully solve the special teams issues, but defensively is where things get really interesting. More on that in just 1 minute. Folks, I have to comment on A.J. Dillon's injury, because A.J.'s done for the season. That's why we signed Josh Jacobs at 26 years old, just a freaking workhorse, stud running back, and that's why we drafted Marshawn Lloyd in the 3rd round at pick number 88 from USC. Fun fact, Marshawn Lloyd averaged 7.1 yards per carry last year. I get it, it's college football, it's the Pac-12, or what was the Pac-12. I get it, we're taking it all with a grain of salt, but folks, A.J. Dillon's injury absolutely sucked, but it's not the end of the world. And we also have Emmanuel Wilson, who's a high IQ football player who literally just gets it done. So, Marshawn only played 1 year at USC. He spent 3 years at South Carolina. He actually sat out the 2020 season due to a torn ACL, but he broke or evaded 55 tackles last year. That was the second most in the entire Pac-12. Over the last 2 seasons, he's broke or evaded 94 tackles, which was 7th amongst all Power 5 running backs. Last season, He averaged 4.4 yards per rush after contact. That was fourth highest in the FBS. So my point is, don't be concerned with the injury to A.J. Dillon, although it definitely sucks, and we're kind of asking a lot from, Marshawn Lloyd and Emmanuel Wilson specifically. But I love that I have Marshawn Lloyd in my back pocket. So let's get to the defense real quick because, I've said it time and time again, and I think every Packers fan has felt this way, honestly, probably since our last Super Bowl victory. On paper, we are loaded everywhere. Our starting rotation is going to look like Rashawn Gary, TJ Slayton, Kenny Clark, Preston Smith, Quay Walker, Isaiah McDuffie, Eric Stokes, Xavier McKinney, rookie Javon Bullard, Jair Alexander, Kashawn Nixon. And then you got Ngabare, Carl Brooks, Devontae Wyatt, Lucas Van Ness, Carrington Valentine, Corey Valentine. On paper, this defense is freaking loaded. But there are a couple of players who really stand out to me, and there are two players who really stood out to me in preseason, and their two names were Tyron Hopper out of Missouri and Evan Williams out of Oregon. Real quick, Edgerrin Cooper, he was drafted 45th overall. Unfortunately, injuries, just kiboshed his preseason. But what's important to note is he will still have a nice role on the Packers this upcoming season. We've said this time and time again, but opposing ball carriers averaged 2.5 yards when he made the tackle last season. The Packers defense, 28th against the run in 2023. During Matt LaFleur's 5 seasons as the head coach of the Green Bay Packers, we have allowed 4.7 yards per rush. That is by far the worst in the NFL. Cooper also had 8 sacks last season. He only rushed the passer on 23% of his snaps. He runs a 4.51 40-yard dash. This dude's going to be a future stud. And then we saw Javon Bullard, who had a really nice preseason. He accounted for only two solo tackles, but he's extremely versatile. He logged a bunch of different snaps, whether it was slot experience, going back to his time in Georgia. Javon Bullard's our starting safety right next to Xavier McKinney. But where things get really interesting is Evan Williams. So this dude's a stud. In college football, he had 4.5 sacks last year. That was the third most amongst every defensive back in the entire college football sphere. He had 17 quarterback pressures since the start of 2022. Folks, he's a safety. He's a safety. So he played 23 snaps in the first preseason game. He played 20 in the second preseason game. He recorded in the slot. He was deep safety. He was in the box. He was literally everywhere. And even though he's not slated as a starter, the Packers are going to want him, and they're going to rely on him, and they're going to, most importantly, use him. He had 8 total tackles. He had a forced fumble in that preseason finale. He's a future stud, in my opinion. And the safety room has always been kind of hit or miss, I think, for us. And so I've got Xavier McKinney coming over from New York. I've Javon Bullard from Georgia. I've got Katan Aladapo. I've got Evan Williams, freaking stud. It's looking really good. Now, I did want to talk about Tyron Hopper because he had a really good preseason. Over the final 2 preseason games, he had 16 total tackles. That was tied for the team high. In college, he had 16 tackles for loss. That was the second most in the SEC, but he also had 18 missed tackles. That was third most in the SEC. Is a missed tackle rate of 14%, which is like double the conference average in the SEC. But the point is, most of these rookie studs are depth players, and guys get injured, guys get hurt all the time, and just regardless, you still need depth, right? So my point is, if the only concern with the Packers is our defense, folks, I'm feeling pretty freaking good about it because I like what we have. I like who we drafted, and I love our new defense coordinator, Jeff Hafley. So thank you guys for watching. Hit that like button, hit that sub button for daily NFL content, and let me know down below, where do you see this defense being ranked by the end of the regular season?